Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Dylan Silver, and today on the show, we have the Lumberjack Landlord. Welcome to the show.
Oh man, I'm super pumped to be here. We're going to have a lot of fun. That's the one thing I know how to do. So let's make sure that we have a lot of fun.
Before we hopped on, I said, we'll throw in some real estate, but we're also going to have a good time, some humor.
For sure.
And so you have actually ties to where I'm hosting this podcast out of, in Denton, Texas. I said there's farm animals in the background, so you may hear a rooster, a goat, or a cow, or maybe some dogs. I don't know. But you're in New England right now. Is that right?
I am. I'm in New Hampshire. I'm a New Hampshire guy.
Okay. Grew up there?
Yeah, grew up here. The age-old story, you grow up, you drop out of the 9th grade and try and find your way, and you work a bunch of different jobs and learn a bunch of stuff, and found my niche in high tech in the early 2000s, and just retired from that job last year. After 27 years in tech, I did both jobs. I worked kind of 80 to 100 hours a week for all that time, and I just like to work, and we made it part of our life and part of our family life, so our kids were around it all the time. And now I'm on an amazing podcast with Dylan Silver, and we're talking about real estate and having fun. So I don't know that it gets any better.
Thank you for the edification there. I appreciate it. The name's getting out there. So tech, were you on the sales side or were you on the development side?
Sales side.
Okay, so sales
side. Yep.
I know a lot of people, and then also selfishly, I'm also outside of this in I guess you would call it a software engineering boot camp.
Sure.
Just selfishly, and then also curiosity-wise, I'm seeing that a lot of people that are going into tech are now using these boot camps as a way to get in, maybe as much, my opinion, even more so than a traditional, but I'm just one person. What's your opinion of going the traditional route, 4-year school degree, versus going boot camp, or maybe a mix of both?
You're talking to a 9th grade dropout that makes more money than all of his friends do. So you can guess what my feelings are on college. I think college is important. I think it's important in a few different regards. Obviously, I want my doctors going to college. I prefer that my attorneys go to college. So there's certain degrees I think certainly merit it. But then for the most part, I think that, my kids, I hope they finish high school. I don't want them dropping out in the 9th grade. That we'll have a conversation about, because, that made my life a little bit more difficult, but still it was the right thing for me to do. But as far as college goes, I think, too often we're giving kids the biggest financial decision in their life at 18 years old.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, make a great decision. Well, I really want to go to that campus because you saw like 3 good-looking girls on campus. Like, that's a problem. Like, we're not going to spend $250,000 on, or, we're not spending $250,000 on that.
Yeah.
And so I think too often I see, people get out of college riddled and saddled with debt that is largely, larger than their rent payment.
Yep.
and keeps them from buying a house until their late 20s or early 30s. The numbers say mid 30s now.
Yeah.
And that just means you're that much further behind on the curve. If you can find a way to get into a house, I house hacked. I house hacked 9 different homes in 13 years. And that's how I was able to afford houses that I couldn't afford with just my income. Is you just have to do what it takes to get there.
To your point there with this idea of having this massive student debt, so I come up from a family of people who are educated, love education. That's their
Sure.
jam. I'm not that way because what I experienced and saw from other people and in myself is that back when they went to school, it wasn't a guarantee,
Nope.
but there was a whole lot more certainty and a whole lot
Yes.
more people were finishing school. What we're now seeing on every level is, especially in the private schools, is fewer and fewer people are finishing. I want to say it's like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's something like 40 to 60% are finishing, which means that somewhere around 1 in 2 people who are taking on this massive debt are not finishing.
Yep.
And then on top of that, when you're graduating with these degrees, it's like the first 5 years out of the degree at minimum, you're really scaling in your career and you probably won't be able to make enough money to survive. And so my perspective is like, look, it's not for everybody. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to swear by it. But for those people who say, you know what, I'm going a different path, there are now so many ways. I love the trades, personally. I love the trades.
Me too. Absolutely agree. It's trades. There are too many people retiring from the trades. I know a lot of guys in the trades that make 6 figures. Yep. So if that's the impediment, like I can't get rich doing the trades, really? I paid my plumber 150 grand last year, and I promise he had a lot more than me for a customer.
And on top of that, they're talking about this sounds maybe shocking to people who aren't familiar with this, but private equity is looking at a lot of these trades companies, and they're looking at it. Well, they've built this entity. How can we acquire, let's say, multiple plumbers, multiple HVAC? How can we scale this and put these companies together and create something where it wasn't previously there? And honestly, that space is ripe for innovation because
for sure.
How do people go? I mean, I don't know in all areas of the country, but I know out here, it's not like you just open up an Uber type application and go find a plumber. You know, most of the time it's through referral, through somebody that you know, or through Googling. It's just, there's so much opportunity there. But I digress. Let's talk about your real estate journey. So tech sales and real estate. I've seen this a handful of times, but it's always interesting because you got to be a problem solver in order to do real estate. That's just the name of the game. Yeah. While you're scaling in your tech career, you mentioned house hacking. So you're doing both concurrently. Yes. How did that go for you? Was it a natural progression for you, or was there a time period where you were like, hey, I'm doing something very unique here with my real estate portfolio. Let's see how far I can take this.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Yeah, so I think it was necessity. It was, I wanted to live in a nice place. I'd rather live in a nice place with some roommates than live in the place I could afford. The bigger thing is I knew that a lot of them were just like, I'll be there for a couple of years and then I'll split. They really had no tie to it. And so for me, it was just understanding, hey, this is actually a thing. I need to, first couple that I did were a condo and a single family house. And then I was like, I don't love having roommates. Like that kind of, got old at, 24, 25, but I worked all the time. So who cares? But what's really interesting is that as I got through that process, I said, duplexes seem like the thing to be and to do. So I started looking at duplexes, tries, and quads. the reason I like the duplex so much was because I could get residential debt. I could do a 5% down owner occupied loan. So it gave me a lot of freedom. And we all know in the real estate game, it's really mostly about the debt that you're buying these assets with is the biggest, most important thing. Yes, I'm getting a great asset. What does the income stream look like? But what's my debt? And if I'm buying it as an owner occ, I'm buying it with 5% down. Fannie Freddie just approved 5% down for 3 units and 4 units if they're owner occed. So, or owner occupied. So I don't know why that's not the absolute best strategy on the market, especially if you're trying to get into a place sooner than later and start the journey. This is the Warren Buffett effect. It is get in there and let that compound. That's the key to this story. And that's what just enough people don't know about, I think.
Let's do a bit of a dive into debt and, what is good debt in the real estate space. So I'm in DFW. I've spoken with people that are in Boston. Of course, that's not New Hampshire, but I'm sure you have a sense of the area.
Sure.
In DFW for specifically fix and flip strategy, single family residential, I've spoken with a number of people. I'm not a flipper myself, but I've worked on jobs where the flippers are present.
Sure.
The margins are getting slimmer. Some people will say it's not a profitable strategy any longer in DFW. Some people will say it is. You just have to buy the deal right. Other people are saying, well, that's a risk because how do you know exit strategy, days on market, holding costs, over budget, so on and so forth. Would you take on debt to do a fix and flip in New England, really anywhere in New England, for a single family residential?
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
Me, yes, but I've got 24 years experience and I'm going to absolutely bury the guy who thinks he's going to keep up with me, right? So from that perspective, it's a win for me. I'm doing a fix and flip right now, but it's because it came through an agent that knows I close, came through a wholesaler that was like, yeah, I think I found this property. I think it's a pretty good deal. And, it was an unbelievable opportunity to look at it and just go, this is what makes sense. So I was able to buy it because I had connections. I was able to buy it for the lowest price because they knew that I could stroke a check and close. So they didn't have to worry about that. They didn't have to worry about I'm going to have to do some inspections first. I do my own inspections. Why? Because I've done this for 23 years and I bought 100 buildings. And when I say 100 buildings, I mean mostly duplexes, triplexes, and quads. That's mostly what I buy. So I buy some of the bigger stuff, but my focus remains the smaller stuff because it's very, very, very liquid. In a down economy, you can still sell a duplex, triplex, or a quadplex. The bigger stuff becomes more challenging in many cases because it's a smaller pool of buyers, and what you're going to get for the place is based on how many units you have rented and what you're getting for rent. On the residential side, on a 2, 3, or 4 unit, it's really based about the comps and what the last thing sold for. And then a buyer's looking at it saying, I'm really concerned mostly about what my return on my capital is going to be. I call it the rock. So what's my return on capital going to be? And that means that if I'm buying it for a little bit lower of a price, my rock is that much higher because I'm getting that much more rent than the numbers say that I should. Right. So I think that there's a lot of pieces to that really lend itself well. I think people that are jumping in and trying to be flippers in this market that have never done it before, I think they're insane.
Yeah, you're going to lose your shirt.
At the end of the day, if you bought it, guess what? 10 guys like me said no. Now you're going to take all of your non-skill, all of your non-contacts, and you're going to try and make this work. Meanwhile, I'm actually doing a video. So, on the Lumberjack Landlord channel, we're doing a video where I actually show that we're going to have about 17 hours of my time making phone calls and text messages, 17 hours into one of my flips that I'll make 6 figures on. No newbies doing that. And you make your money on the buy side, but you also need to be able to sell it. I don't have debt. I was able to strike a check for this thing. So I think that's where a lot of the newbie investors, I think that slow and steady wins the race. I think too often people say, well, we've finally earned a single family house. We want to live in a single family house. Take a little bit more pain for a year or two. Buy a duplex, buy a triplex, buy a quadplex, live there for a year, and then move out and buy the next one and keep that, and then get that thing rented out. That's how you build that's how you inexpensively, with low risk, build a pretty decent sized portfolio.
How do you feel about people who are getting deals off the MLS, ready to take renters in? They're getting a traditional mortgage.
Mhm.
I've spoken with a couple people who have done that. To me, as a wholesaler with a wholesaler mentality, I'm like, why are they doing that?
Mhm.
But I also see, like, apparently it's working for them, even if it's not cash flowing. It'll sell it for a profit. What's your general thought on it?
Yeah, so let me torch you a little bit on that. So it's working. What's working? You're not making any money. Would you go to work every single day to not make any money? And just because, like, it's okay, I'm learning the craft, and so just learning the craft is enough for me. No one would ever say that. No one goes to work for free for 2 years in hopes and expectation that they will have proven enough to their boss that they're going to get promoted in 2 years. Why are we doing that with houses? Why is that a good idea? Why are we signing up for assets that we write a check every single month for to keep? So to me, that's just the silliest notion I've ever heard. That's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
I do deals based on cash flow. That's why I don't have to worry about all these extenuating marketing and market circumstances. I do deals based on cash flow. That's what I do. And that's why my business thrives. In bad times, I do just fine. In good times, it explodes and we reach another level.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Let's talk about acquisitions. Are you finding these deals on market, off market, mix of both? I heard you mention wholesaler.
I will do everything short of illegal to get a deal, to find a deal. So we will buy through wholesalers. One of the things that we talk a lot about is your network being your net worth. I can pick up the phone right now and I can call 10 plumbers if I have an emergency. I could pick up the phone right now and I could say, hey, I need to buy something. I spent the afternoon one time. We had a deal that was only a few days away from having supposed to be closing. It was a 1031. And we had to name the property. People can find out all that stuff if they, check me out, Lumberjack Landlord, but on YouTube. But as they look at the deal fell apart and I had to replace the deal. All I did was spend the next 6 or 7 hours on the phone calling every person that I knew, going, hey, what do you have for me? Hey, what do you have for me? Hey, and guess what? I found a replacement deal. It wasn't as good of a deal as the one I replaced, but it was still good enough. And so if you look at what we always track is our last 5 deals. And our last 5 deals right now are a couple of through a wholesaler, one of them that was on market, and then one that was a pocket listing, and then one that was a put up for sale by a city. It was an asset that the city was selling off. So we look at the key to getting regular traffic across your desk when it comes to deal flow is having a number of relationships in a number of different parts of the market where you're consistently getting people that produce opportunity. The guy goes, oh man, I only hit 1 home run this year. How many at-bats did you get? 5. Well, that's a really good number, but you're not going to hit 20 home runs if you get 5 at-bats. So for me, it's just about at-bats. I want as many at-bats as I possibly can. And then through that process, you find, is this an opportunity that's going to work?
And, being the lumberjack landlord, you're living rent-free in people's heads. I have a mentor who's doing this himself with his brand, right? And it really made me realize that the absurd or the outlandish is what people remember.
Yeah.
And so that is like branding, in my mind, perfection. Like,
Thank
how
you.
are people how many lumberjack landlords are there in the world?
I don't
You
know.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, my mentor has a similar deal with his branding, and it made me recognize, well, what can I do with my branding? So I have my personal brand, and I imagine people see you, they see your logo, they see your look, they hear about you, and when they're thinking about who do I send this deal to, they might forget the last handful of contacts that they spoke with, but they remember they stored someone in their phone, Lumberjack Landlord, LL, they look it up, boom. And
Yeah.
before you know it, and over a period of years, you have people hitting you up that you don't know who these people are, you don't know how you met them, but they're sending you deals, and now it's like you don't have to do any prospecting.
Nothing. I mean, and that's the thing is it's really relationship maintenance,
Yeah.
and these are people that I think the big thing is authenticity. I'm not in a, $4,000 suit.
Yeah.
That's not how I dress. I dress like this, flannel. I wear it until it gets too hot. So it is, whether I need to or not, I'll spend $500 every 3 years on clothes. It's easy. It's an easy life, but
That's
I'm
it. Lumberjack
authentic.
Landlord, baby.
Yeah, I'm just authentic. I'm a landlord, and the nickname came from working in tech and living in New Hampshire. And I came in plaid one day, and everyone's like, "What are you, a lumberjack?" And then that stuck, and so I just used that nickname. And then I was like, so they, people would say, "Oh, lumberjack, what's going on?" I was like, I'm like, yeah, at least I can change the oil in my car, pal.
Yeah, that's right,
and
bud.
but that's where the brand kind of came from. And for me, I was working a corporate America job, and I couldn't have them using any of the AI out there to see my face in a thumbnail somewhere, right? Because all those algorithms with people that you're friends with on Facebook or things like that, like I was going to pop up in somebody's feed eventually. Well, now I don't, because I was the lumberjack landlord and I had a cartoon avatar. That's why I did it, was because it was unsearchable and it wasn't going to be a conversation I needed to have with the ownership that I worked with.
Let's pivot a bit here.
Yeah.
Talking about New England real estate. So
Sure.
I've had a couple of investors on. You're actually the first one that I've had in New England area who does single family residential fix and flips, and is still doing that strategy. I've
Sure.
spoken with another gentleman based out of the Boston area, who's done that, but has found that it's hit and miss. And
Yeah.
based on what I'm hearing you saying, and I completely agree, you have to buy it right. If you're not
Yeah.
cash flowing, or if you don't have potentially multiple exit strategies, then this is what are we talking about here? It's on a hope and a prayer that it's just gonna appreciate. Like, what are we talking about here? And so, in your business and for your money's worth, of course, no one has a crystal ball, right? But for your business and for your money's worth, where do you see the future of the geographic landscape in America from, hey, this area is going to be heavy fix and flip, this area is going to be heavy commercial. I'm in Texas, I'm in Denton, right? So lots of development going on out here. We
Sure.
like to think that we're the capital of real estate investing in the country, for what that's worth, and I don't know if it's true or not, but you have Florida saying, Florida, come here. You have Texas saying, Texas, come here. And frankly, originally from New Jersey, you have a lot of people on the East Coast who are saying, like, this is really expensive. And so just curious what your perspective is on all this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, as time develops, when you look at, Austin 25 or 30 years ago, it was like, keep Austin weird, keep it unique. And it was very, very, very tiny, right? But then as people recognize how inexpensive it was, what did they do? Expand it out, like that urban sprawl. I think that largely speaking, some of the rules for me, being in New Hampshire, I had the chance to invest in Massachusetts and Maine as well. Quite frankly, I hated the politics of the state from the perspective that every single swing, the state was against landlords. They wanted to make it difficult to evict people. They wanted to make it difficult to really get anything done. And so, lots of programs, so high taxes. So, Maine has an income tax of 7.5%, and Mass is right around there too, and New Hampshire has 0. Maine has a big sales tax, Mass has a big sales tax, New Hampshire is 0. So where do we make up for it? We make up for it in property taxes. Well, what does that mean? That means I'm aligned with the state, because what does the state want to make sure happens? That they get their property taxes. How do they know they're going to get paid their property taxes? Because they're going to help me enforce rules and laws that ensure that my lease gets lived up to and that people pay their rent. And so I have the opportunity in my state to evict somebody in under 30 days, and that's a pretty hard thing to find.
Yeah.
Now, the state is aligned with me. Now, it doesn't mean that I have any advantage other than I don't have the state working against me, right? And so when it comes down to it, what we're trying to do is making sure that we can afford, give people affordable housing. You can't do that if you have 7% not paying.
You can.
Can't. And when a lot of times with a lot of landlords, they're after expenses, they're making under 10% anyway. If they give it to a property manager, I got bad news. Your property manager is making more from your property than you are. That's the type of stuff that I stopped because, people kept on coming at me because I wasn't a social media guy. It wasn't anything I did. I got into it because of COVID and I was bored. And my daughter had cancer. And so I had to have something else fill my time while my wife was at the hospital. And so, going through that journey, it was something where I found people that I could share those experiences with. And so I started doing the Lumberjack Landlord thing. But, fast forward, you obviously don't need to do a YouTube channel. You don't need to become a Lumberjack Landlord or whatever you want to become. What you need to do is really, trying to learn a craft. And when you're trying to learn the investing craft, there's a ton of voices out there that you can watch. And then based on what their success is and based on how they teach, and if that's the way that you learn, that's where you start to link up with them. We have a ton of stuff that we just put out for free. There's certainly the stuff where people say, I want to accelerate my journey. Okay, fine. We have that too. But a lot of people literally just watch for free and they just come and ask questions. I do a live stream every week. It's something I committed to give back, where we spend 90 minutes just answering people's questions on the market.
Wow.
And hey, I'm stuck on this, or hey, I had a tenant say that, or hey, I've got a project, and what do I do here? And hey, the plumber's saying this about my house. And so we just answer every single question because at 23 years, we've got it all done. But I think there's something systemically wrong in a system where a property manager makes more money than the owner of the asset. I think that's a problem. So, right? So what we've done is we've demystified all the things where, not saying that all property managers are not necessarily on the up and up, but a lot of them, people complain about their property manager. And they're like, dear God, another month I made no money because this, that, or the other had to be fixed or repaired.
Yeah.
You know who consistently gets rich? The property manager. They consistently get rich and they're making more money on your asset than you are. So we spend our time teaching people. There's a billion people out there teaching, here's how you buy, here's how you buy, here's how you buy. What we spend our time on is, here is how you manage your business. So many 90% of businesses go out of business. Well, this is why we teach, here's how to run your real estate investment business. And here's all the steps.
It is a business, right? So when people are looking at it like, oh, I'm in real estate, like it's like a watch.
Right.
We talked about, non-cash flowing. I'm in complete agreement with you. I've had people disagree with me on this, so I never know what type of guests I'm going to have, so I tend to tread lightly. But I do understand, like, exactly your thought process, because it's mine as well. If I'm losing money on a rental, what are we doing?
What are we doing here? I can literally do nothing and make more money. Why are we here?
Yeah, I mean, this idea that we're going to guarantee that property values go up.
No.
Like, we're seeing it right now. That's not a guarantee. And
you can't make that guarantee. Yeah, you can't make that guarantee in a short period of time, right? Over time, rents always go up. Over time, property values always go up. Over time, that's what happens. But if you're trying to say in the next 6 months, housing is going to go up, you don't know that. In the next 12 months, rents are going to go up. You don't know that. You have no idea.
Yeah.
You no idea. So the longer you bring the time horizon out, the more reliability and predictability you can have in a forecast. And so for us, that's why when we buy, we only buy cash flowing deals. Period. We only buy cash flowing deals. We like to do value add. So we like to make repairs and updates and do the things that need to be done to get affordable, make it an affordable rental, but also one that's profitable, because that is the game. And if you want to see your bank not lend to you on your second deal, make your first one unprofitable.
Preach.
You need the bank's money. And the only way that me as a bank is going to give you money is if I know that you know what you're supposed to do with that money, which is you're supposed to send out those dollars and they're supposed to bring back their friends. And if
Yeah.
you've proven to me that you can't do that and you're just like, well, we're an appreciation play. Well, I'm a not listening to you anymore play.
Yeah. Banks are
Because
not in the
you
business of owning real estate. They're in the
no.
business of owning people, if you will.
Yes, they want to own, they want to know that the money that they give you has a high chance of being paid back.
Yeah.
Because they don't even want the asset. They
They
just
do
want to get
not
paid
want
back.
the asset.
They
They
don't
want
want it.
your commitment. That is what they
Correct.
want. So when people talk
Correct.
about collateral, this is a whole other podcast, and I think that we should have you back to talk about
Happy to.
this idea. When people talk about collateral as like this great thing to have, it is great, right? But the bank doesn't want it.
No.
They do not want it. In fact,
How much of a loss do they typically take?
a huge loss.
40%?
Right.
You get killed.
And so, most banks, and I'm not a banker, but I know very few banks that have a real estate investing, like I've never heard of. You don't go in a brick and mortar bank and
Right.
see real estate investing branch. No, you don't see that. So, when you're taking on this debt and it's like, you better be cash flowing, you better have an exit strategy, you better have a couple, you better know what you're doing. And if you don't, you can go, get the next one. But I would still say, like, for my money's worth, you want to partner with people on that first deal. You want that first deal to have a good taste in your mouth. You don't just want it to be a learning experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think the mistake that people make is, they'll spend $20,000 going off trying to learn something. I'd rather see you spend the 20 grand in the actual asset and having spent a ton of your time getting as much free knowledge as possible. And if you find somebody that you really like, it's like, okay, fine. Like we do what we do for very little money because we want them putting it in the asset. I can run my entire 153 units and 53 buildings. I can run the entire thing from my phone. That's what we teach people how to do, because if you can do it with that low amount of drag, guess what? You can grow very quickly. The idea is we want steady, stable growth. We want people creating relationships with local banks, because local banks' charter is in the community, of the community, for the community. They're there to help you. If you're calling up some big national bank or a broker, they don't give two rips about you. They're looking at the deal. And if you're not experienced, they don't give two rips about your deal. So I want to create relationship at the local bank level and local credit union level. I want to do owner ox in the first few, because I want to cut my teeth and I want to see the things that can go wrong that help me better learn and handicap what might occur in the future. And it can be a nice, reasonable, steady pace. At the end of the day, everybody needs a place to live. So if you have to have a place to live, why not house hack? You might have roommates for a little bit, but who cares? You moved from your parents' house into a college dorm. You had roommates at your parents' house. You have roommates at your college dorm. You then get out of college, and to keep the rent low, what do? You either move home or you're renting out with roommates. Yeah. Why not stick with it a little bit longer, have saved up a little bit of money, just a few $1,000s. When somebody says, housing's so expensive, I can't afford it. I helped a kid who was 24 years old. 24 years old. He bought his first quadplex, and at 24 years old, bought his first quadplex, moved in. $8,854 is what his down payment was. If you can't put $8,900 together, I'm sorry, you're not ready to own a property. You're not.
What do you think about? What do you think about if someone had 4,400 and they go in with a buddy and do 50-50 on it, and they both live there?
I think you can possibly do that. Me in particular, my personality, as you can probably imagine, doesn't do great with partners.
But some people might, yeah.
Yeah, some people might. Some people might, see that yin and yang, right? They might say, hey, this is the guy who's really going to run the numbers, but this is the guy who's really going to do the work. I didn't mind being both. And so for me, it was, I didn't have, the only risk in the business then was me. I was the risk. So if I was still willing to work as hard as I could work, still get it done, then the likelihood of success was very high, and I didn't have to depend on somebody else to live up to their end of the bargain. So most real estate relationships that I see that partner on deals, when you're really big, that's a different thing. But when you're really small, a lot of times those partnerships fizzle within a few years, and then you're undoing all of the ties to each other. And that can be painful.
It certainly can be. I've seen it more than a handful of times in the short time that I've been in the real estate space. We are
Sure.
coming up on time here, though.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for giving our listeners some value and some insight into your business. Where can folks go to get a hold of you?
So you can go right to Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube or on Instagram. We post stuff on Instagram, all my silly shenanigans out there in the field and stupid things that I do. Thursday nights, every single Thursday, 9 p.m. on the YouTube, we spend time for 90 minutes just answering people's questions free of charge. We don't charge anything. We just want you to come and hang out with us, answer your questions, have you feel part of the community. No one ever in my chats ever talks down to anybody because they remember what it was like to be there. And that's the most important thing to me is it's a respectful community. Everybody's pulling for everybody. Everybody celebrates each other's deals and it's awesome. And so, we've got about 11,000 subscribers and a couple 100,000 views a month that we get to be a part of other people's journey. And that's what gets me going now. Cause I don't know how many more deals I'm going to do. I still do great deals when they come by, but great deals are tough to find. And so I do the great deals, but I spend a lot of time just helping people trying to get across and get there first.
Lumberjack Landlord, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Happy to be here, my man.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.